Hello, my name is Bob Ray. I'm here at the Raindance Film Festival screening a short documentary that I co-directed with my fellow co-director Gene Gallerano called Thank You for Listening, about the musician and singer Joshua Ray Walker and his confrontation with death. We conceived it as a feature film that was going to be a hybrid documentary narrative combination. And so the documentary part would be sort of his backstory and his cancer battle, but the hybrid fictional component of it would be a sort of world created of all the characters and archetypes that he sings about. And so we were going to create a fictionalized world. And so the sort of stitch between the two was going to be a 60s era pirate radio station that he found in his grandfather's workshop. And his grandfather was vital to his upbringing and shaping who he is as a human. And so I built a set, and it looks really cool, and I have a bunch of vintage gear. And his grandfather wasn't really old in the 60s, but it just has a really nostalgic feel to it with all the mechanical nature of things. We'll create a script for the narrative component. And so I was listening to his songs, and I was talking to him, and I created a narrative structure for that. And then I started working with Josh to flesh out the individual characters, because they weren't going to be this guy from this song, but it was going to be like this type of person that you sing about. And they were going to connect with him through the pirate radio station transmissions, and then all the devices would hold memories. Like this one device would hold his memories of his grandfather, like a Super 8 viewing screen, and this old rotary telephone would hold this information. So it was going to be, the room would represent his inner thoughts, his soul and his heart and his mind, where he's accessing memories and he's communicating with people through the electronic devices in there. And we thought that would be an interesting way to sort of structure this, to stitch to this narrative world. Along the way, we shot for about 18 months. Along the way, he did 5 of his 6 chemotherapy sessions, and everything was going really well. And he went in for his 6th session, and he had a heart murmur, a palpitation, and a regular heartbeat of some sort. And the doctor said, well, your chemo seems to be going really well. You might not even need the 6th chemo. Let's just go ahead and do a full body scan and see where you're at. And maybe you're done. And when they did the full body scan, he had colon cancer. So the full body scan showed spots on all 4 quadrants of his lungs, which meant it had metastasized. Everyone who's ever seen that CAT scan looks at that and says, it's metastasized, you are now at stage 4. Your chances of survival went from 92% to maybe 14% for living 2 years. And it was a death sentence. It was effectively a death sentence. And we were all obviously devastated.
But it was supposed to be a safe one.
It was, but
it spread.
It spread. So we immediately, our primary concern obviously is for Josh, right? So
how did he handle that?
Very, very well. He was able to, he's really in tune with his emotions, but he was very strong about it. And he insisted that we continue filming because it gave him a purpose. He's on the road so much. There's an inherent purpose of just getting to the next show and playing, and he likes.
Oh, he continued.
So he didn't stay on the road, but he continued with the movie. He's like, we need to keep filming this. And so then we're like, what do we do with the story now? How do we go from this story of survivable cancer, what previously had story of survivable cancer stitched with a mostly whimsical version of his lyrics in this fun kind of playful way while he's doing a task that's expected to succeed at, but still potentially dire, but he's expected to succeed at it. And then this playful world, is that even feasible anymore now? Because now that was a survivable form of cancer is a death sentence. So we just cleaved this off. We said, we need to get rid of this component. It's just, how can you be in a movie watching something where someone's gonna die? And then you go and you play around over here. There's probably a way to do it, but it didn't make any sense. Additionally, he was gonna die soon. And so we at least wanted to finish the movie. Like, it would certainly be powerful to watch him die in the movie. But we wanted him to be able to celebrate this movie that he did too. So we reconfigured the movie so we could finish it before he died. And so for 6 weeks, so for 6 weeks, we're filming it for this. We're filming it to finish the movie before he dies. He has to go in for a biopsy. They have to deflate his lung. He's a singer, so that's a big, scary thing for a singer, to have his lung deflated so they could do a biopsy. They cut out a piece of his lung, and while he was open, they put it on the scope or whatever, the device. They look at it, and they're like, that's not cancer. And then the doctor was so certain that he had cancer, they cut open another part of his
What?
lung, and they took another spot where they found it, and they put it on there, and they're like, that's not cancer.
What is it?
They did this 4 times because they were convinced. It absolutely, overwhelmingly, if not near 100% of the time, when colon cancer shows up as spots in your lungs, that's cancer.
Yeah.
Like, these are not fly-by-night doctors. This is some of the best medical people in Texas. And so they realized that he didn't have stage 4 cancer, which was,
What a twist.
spoiler alert if you watch the movie, this is the journey in the movie, so I've just spoiled some things. I apologize in advance or along the way, wherever we are. But so we were obviously elated that this someone that was so meaningful, that meant so much to us, was no longer just going to die from cancer in 3 months. The best they can figure out, that the information I got from Josh, is that it might have just been a fungal infection that showed up and looked exactly like cancer looks. And he had this unusual fungal thing happening in his lungs.
No way.
And so we were happy that he wasn't dying of cancer, but we all thought for 6 weeks, and we filmed as if he were. So we had prior to that, we had already filmed parts of this narrative, what I call stitching or throwing it to the narrative, right? You're in the doc world and you have to stitch to the narrative world. You have to get back. And we wanted to make it seem sort of seamless in the way that you weren't quite clear on which is documentary and which is fiction. And that was the initial plan. So we started filming it in a very narrative way, in the room that was supposed to be his sort of purgatory, if you will, like trapped. He's grounded from touring, he's trapped with health issues, he's just reflecting on life because he's stuck. And so then when we cleaved off that narrative component, we still had the style that we had developed in the room. And it really worked out wonderfully because it plays like a narrative in the tone. There's still direct-to-camera interviews happening, but it guided us in a way and helped us find what the movie was. And so now we were back into survivability, but now the story of the misdiagnosis became part of our story. And we play it in the movie like it was played to us. And that wasn't even played to us, like it happened to us.
Yeah.
You know, and that you like this guy, and then you find out he's a health issue that is probably gonna make it through, and then everything turns really dark. And then he survives and is quite jubilant in the end. I think we had 1 C-stand, and we had some practical lights, which are just bulbs you put in, like lamps that exist in your home. You have to have special ones so they don't flicker or they have the light color temperature. And we just used the things that we had. He had a bunch of Soviet Union era prime lenses, which is a lens that's not a zoom lens, it's just it's a set focal length lens. And he used those, and we were really embracing this sort of dreamlike world. And so we didn't have a tilt shift, which you can change the focal plane to make things seem out of focus. So he would just do this sort of poor man's tilt shift where you pop the camera off the body and you tilt it manually like this. So it creates this, like if you're all in focus and then it tilts this way, maybe this is out of focus and on the far side, and this is out of focus on the shallow side.
Why did he want that effect?
Just to create this sort of dreamy purgatory feel to it. We wanted an unworldly feel to it, and not in a science fiction way, but in a sort of a dreamy, hazy way.
Yeah.
And then you can let light, if you're doing the tilt shift, you can let light from the back come in, and you have glare from not just the regular lens flare glare that's coming from the front. You can have some light kicking in from the back.
Nice.
And a lot of macro photography, super up close photography. And a lot of the gear that was in the room is really interesting gear. It's mechanical, it moves, it's sort of visceral, it kind of almost has a heartbeat, you know, and so it feels like it's a body of some sort. And we wanted those to contain his thoughts and emotions in a way. And so I feel it plays this way, and I think the audience does too, is that these devices are not in a cybernetic way, but they're sort of extensions, or they're vaults for these sort of things. And then, interestingly, the show where Gene and I met was called Photographer, and there's a photographer named Dan Winters who's like a world-class photographer. And the first episode of the series, the National Geographic series Photographer that Gene produced, is about Dan Winters, who lives in Central Texas.
Nice.
And he's a big burly, big bear of a guy. He's a wonderful human. And he came out and played, you know, in the flashback scenes, played Josh's grandfather, who's long passed. But then Dan Winters took our poster picture, and it's like, imagine having a world-class photographer, like one of the best.
The sound design and the music for the film, what did you want?
So Josh he's always wanted to write scores for movies. Before he was a musician, as a child, he's always wanted to write scores for movies. He found success as a singer and a songwriter, and when we were making the movie, from the get-go, he's like, I get to write the score, right?
Oh,
And we're like, well, yeah, and hoping it would be great. But his music's great. How could it not be great? But scoring is different than songwriting, you know, because you're complementing the emotional journey of the visual components and the storytelling laid out in editing. That said, holy smokes, is the score amazing. The score is so amazingly good. So he did the score, and I watched it twice here at Raindance, and just, it sends the movie to another level. The cinematography John Tanner did, and the editing that Christina did, and that Cyrus did, really work really well together. And then Josh and his producer, collaborator, John Pedigo, they wrote this score that's just, it's just amazing. Like, I know it's my movie and I'm biased, but it's really fantastic. And in fact,
I have a feeling it's really
quite likely
good.
if I get the movie Snake Bit about the revolutionary group going, Josh is in the running to write the score for that. If he would do it, because he is, I could foresee him writing scores and songs down the line, because it's just.
Was this his first one?
It was, yeah.
That's so
And
cool.
he's just absolutely nailed it. It's so wonderful, and it gets to be an extension of who he is, as expressed through the movie. So you know, it's more him. Just the fact that it's more him is great, but even better, it's amazing.
Amazing. Oh my God, he's so talented.
He is. He's really great. You should go see him on July 28th, like Lower 3rd in London.